I always want to start my stories by choosing the most complicated moments, 'cause the truth sometimes opens the deepest wounds while you're just trying to survive. Ever since you become aware of yourself, your entire world defines you in some way. And in that world, I grew up never quite knowing who I was or what I was supposed to achieve. My name is Ellie. I was born and raised in Maple Bridge, Pennsylvania, a small town, place where everyone knows each other, lives together, a little microcosm. But unfortunately, being known isn't always a pleasant thing. Not when it's a place that questions the existence of someone like you. My family was the most respected in Maple Bridge. The Foster family had become the pride of the town. My father, Douglas, owned the biggest construction company in the area. Everyone respected him, but respect was just a mask. The number of people I saw him truly love wouldn't exceed the fingers on one hand. To tell what I want to say, I need to go back a little. Brandon, my older brother. He seemed like a truly perfect man. In almost everyone's eyes, he was the ideal son, the ideal leader. A star football player in school, prom king, a powerful entrepreneur in the business world. In the town's eyes, Brandon was success. And his life was always full of moments that were right, perfect in every way. You knew me too. But I was different. I've always been different. I never understood football, never hung out with the popular kids at school. I retreated into my own world. I loved writing code. But my mother, Mary, would ask, "Why can't you play outside, sweetheart? Why don't you chase a ball or be social?" She never understood. And my father would always say, "Messing with women's stuff isn't the same as being a builder." So I didn't exist in that world. That world wasn't made for me. To my family, I was always in the background. As the pressure on me grew, I started questioning my own worth. Brandon constantly being praised made it harder for me to find my own place. My work, my achievements, all of it was worthless in their eyes. Being labeled the computer girl. That's really what they made me feel like. When I started college, no one cared anyway. I learned to code, tried to do things on my own, but I always stayed in the shadows. Caught between my father's cold stares and my mother's displeasure, I was busy searching for my freedom. But the truth is always something that hurts. One day when I came home, I remember my father throwing my entire world into the trash with a single word. "You gave up." It was so cold it froze me to my core. In their eyes, I never existed. When I dropped out of college and left the town, no one looked back at me. I didn't feel anything, 'cause I no longer felt the need to belong to them. The day I left Maple Bridge, I had just a little money and knew I had to hit the road. I wanted to find my own identity, escape my family's expectations, and build my own life. So I went to Austin, Texas. Through all, no one knew me there. No one would call me the foster girl, and no one would compare me to Brandon. In Austin, I rented a small apartment above a Mexican bakery. For the first time in my life, there was no one but me. No one to tell me how to define success, no one to talk about how great others were. I decided to discover myself by doing things my own way. First, it was tough. I started working at a cybersecurity company for minimum wage. But at least being part of that world, starting to achieve something, gave me strength. I felt important, yet there was still a void inside me. That feeling grew the moment I thought I needed to do someone else's work to be successful. And then there was a turning point in my life. His name was Jonas Park. We met that day at a tech meetup in Austin. He was a man who stayed in the background, analyzing everything with just his eyes. First, no one talked about him. But soon I found myself drawn into a deep conversation with him. Slowly, we started getting to know each other. He wanted to create success from scratch. And he believed in it. First, those conversations were just doubts. But it didn't take long for us to believe that the same fire burning inside both of us had found its match. We decided to start a company. But that path was full of challenges. We nearly lost everything to build our own business. Somehow, though, we got to work. This journey I was on would teach me everything. But everything came at a cost. And I was ready to pay that price. 'Cause I had finally started to find my own identity. When I decided to set out, I started living in that small apartment in Austin, but waking up every morning and going to work felt a little strange. There was still a world in my head filled with the town, my family, and my past. Yet, oddly enough, even after getting so far away, their shadows wouldn't leave me alone. Especially my mom's short text messages. "How are you?" she'd ask, but there was always an underlying question mark. It was a question that never used the word failure but carried its meaning all the same. I knew it. The first few months were tough. A small, dark apartment, old furniture, a cup of coffee in the mornings, and the time spent walking to work in the early hours. Everything seemed fine on the surface, but there were voids inside me. Everyone around me seemed to have their lives figured out while I was just starting mine. At that point, everything was uncertain. All I had was a job I was desperately clinging to. But still, going to work every morning gave me a purpose. At least I had a reason to keep going. I was trying to achieve something. One evening, while walking home from work, my thoughts were tangled up in my head. The intensity of those thoughts, as always, was a search for a solution. But then, the man who appeared out of nowhere would change everything. Jonas Park. In that moment, I realized something. Everything in this world had a reason, and finding that reason meant fighting with life itself. Jonas had truly impressed me at that meetup. His intelligence, his sincerity, and most importantly, his courage. He was such a deep person that it felt like he was reading all my thoughts as we spoke. First, it seemed like we were just talking about technology. But then, when he really started to understand, the conversation shifted. The idea of starting a company turned into a desire that both of us carried inside but rarely shared with anyone. In that moment, I understood how quickly everything could change. "Ellie, I know you want to build your life too. You need to understand what it means to find your own path and set your own rules. You'll walk this road alone. But I'm here. You can do anything you want, and when we start from scratch, I'll be by your side." Those words were so heartfelt and honest that I felt something click into place within the emptiness inside me. A week later, we decided to take a big step that would shape both of our futures. The idea of starting a company was just the beginning. We knew the challenges ahead, but we had something more important than anything else. A goal, to build something from nothing, to overcome failures with our own strength, and to make ourselves exist. Truly, something changed after that day. 'Cause for the first time in my life, I was part of something. But there was one thing he wanted to teach me. Success isn't always handed to you like a golden prize. Most of the time, your hands are covered in blood. But no matter how much they bleed, that success will always be yours. Beginnings are always hard. When we started our own business, we took on small jobs at first, freelancing here and there. It was such a chaotic process that, between the struggle to survive, we barely found time to sleep. But even in those moments, we trusted each other. We were struggling, but we were moving forward. Every day, we got a little better. In the early days of the company, everything was uncertain. But one thing was clear, it was just the two of us, and that was enough. With each passing day, we worked harder together, but something was growing between us. Not just the business, a bond. We were spending more and more time together, and that connection went beyond distance or personal barriers. Jonas wasn't just teaching me about the business world. He was also helping me find myself. I was questioning my own worth, and every day I grew a little stronger. But as you realize, changing the truth takes time. One night, late at night, Jonas and I were having coffee, and in that moment I thought about the entire journey we were on. No matter how alone I felt, sometimes life's small beginnings could lead you to the biggest changes. But that night I noticed something. I was still running from my past. My ties to my family in Maple Bridge and the impressions I'd taken from them lingered like a constant void. Everything wasn't complete yet, but there was only one thing I needed to succeed: to accept myself and who I was. One morning, I opened my eyes to the warm air of Austin. As I watched the people walking on the street from my window, I realized how fast time passed in this city. There was a change in my life, but I kept waking up with a lingering sense of something missing. Still, working with Jonas gave me a peace I'd never felt before. The small security firm we'd built together was growing bit by bit every day. Most importantly, I finally felt like I belonged somewhere. But alongside that, I knew my past was constantly following me. With each passing day, memories of the town and my family visited me more often. My mom's phone calls, my dad's cold messages, Brandon's success stories. They were all piling up in a corner of my mind. Sometimes those memories tightened my chest. Will they ever truly value me once I succeed? I wondered. Or will everything just fade away? One day, a message from my mom popped up on my phone. "Ellie, how are you? Your family misses you so much. We still really want you to come back." That message shook me in more ways than one. 'Cause for years, no one had asked about me. They'd only ever talked about how successful Brandon was, but they'd never heard anything about me. Yet I'd been searching for success all those years, and not one of them had ever genuinely asked, "Are you okay?" In that moment, the void inside me deepened. Maybe in their eyes, achieving something only mattered if it came with their approval. But did I really have to prove myself to anyone? Was my worth tied to them? As these questions swirled in my head, I suddenly made a decision. I was going to face my past. The next day, I shared these thoughts with Jonas. Sometimes I feel like I can't escape my past. And maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's what I really need to achieve, making peace with it. Jonas looked at me calmly. "Ellie, you can't change the past. But how you carry it is up to you. Past doesn't shape you, you shape the past. It's your choice." Jonas's words felt like they'd slotted a piece of me, lost for years, back into place. Now I was realizing something. To build my own identity, I'd have to accept the shortcomings and neglect I'd taken from my family. 'Cause everything about me was tied to being myself. A week later, one morning, I thought about returning to Maple Bridge. That town might bring back the cold walls, sorrows, and expectations of my past, but this time I'd go back with a different mindset. I'd show them the path I'd walked, tell them who I was and what I'd achieved. As I took the first step toward that return, I realized how different it felt just to set foot in that town. The place I'd once thought of as cold, heavy, and old felt different to me now. Maybe with time, I was feeling how distant everything I'd grown up with had become. When I first stepped into the town, the first person I encountered was Brandon. As always, he was the town's star. His hair neat, his suit perfect, speaking kindly to everyone around him, exuding confidence with every step. For a moment, being in the same space as him, like in the old days, brought back that familiar feeling of being in the background. But this time, it was different. I was different. I looked at him once more and smiled. "Ellie, is that you?" he said, surprised. "Yes, it's me." There was a flicker of shock in his eyes. But then he smiled coolly. "Why'd you come back? I'm not sure there's really a place for you here. But of course, we can catch up whenever you want." In that moment, I saw that old success look in Brandon's eyes. But it didn't affect me anymore. 'Cause now I had people around me who valued me and everything belonged to them. During my walk through the town, I also visited my mom and dad. My father, still showing how much he could belittle me, asked, how's that tech stuff of yours going? Still trying to build something? As I talked with him, I tried to understand the environment I was in. For years, I tried to prove myself, but now what I felt had completely changed. Yes, I'm trying to build something. But this time, it's different. I'm trying to understand myself. I'm searching for success for me, not for you. My father's silence, his inability to find words, suddenly made me feel so free. Their approval or recognition didn't matter anymore. Like so many people, I tried to prove my success to others. But in the end, I realized the greatest success is understanding yourself and carving your own path. And that path belonged to me. My return to Maple Bridge was a turning point. When I arrived, I hadn't expected how the old town would greet me. Everything was still familiar, yet I was a stranger. The small town left an even deeper impression on me than it had before, as if it had grown more entrenched with time. Places were the same, the people hadn't changed. But I, Ellie Foster, had left this town long ago. And when I returned, no one truly understood who I was anymore. Facing my family felt like a difficult test. My father's cold stares, my mother's eyes waiting for approval, but I no longer cared about any of it. Through making peace with myself, how others saw me didn't affect me anymore. True success was finding my own path and walking it. This path wasn't shaped by my family's expectations over the years. It was one molded entirely by my own hands. The dinner with my mom turned out as unpleasant as I'd expected. At the table, there was Brandon again, being praised for how great he was. While he dominated every aspect of the town, I remained the failure in their eyes. But now there was a resistance inside me. Their looks didn't affect me the way they used to. Ellie, how's it going? Are your tech things working out? My mom's question might have hinted at some concern for me, but it carried an equally dismissive tone. I understood. She didn't really believe those things made me successful. Yes, they're working out. This time I'm really finding myself, Mom, I said, my voice steady with resolve. The shock and silence in my mom's eyes unleashed all the feelings that had been building up inside me for years. Everything I'm part of matters to me now, I continued. Success isn't just what you define it as. Being myself and seeing the value in that, it's what truly gives me strength. My father stayed quiet for a while. Then, in a heavy tone, he said, "It used to be thought that a woman's place was at home with her family. But you're different. You've always been different." I wanted to have an emotional outburst, but I didn't. Instead, I looked at him and said, "I decided to do something about that. I'm different, and that's why I define success differently." Then I got up from the table. In their eyes, I saw how much they searched for something lacking in me. Yet I'd been trying to find that missing piece for years. Now I was one step ahead. No matter how much they saw me as incomplete, I'd be the one winning in the end. And they'd have to see it. But in that moment, all I felt was trust in myself. The years I'd spent suffocating under my family's expectations, trying to find my own identity, had actually taught me my own strength and potential. Despite living such a suppressed life for so long, setting out knowing what I needed to do was what set me free. The next day, I got a call. It was Jonas. Last week, we'd taken a huge step forward with the security systems we'd been working on, and we were in talks with a few companies. Our company was growing fast. But the most exciting part was that we finally felt like we were on the right path. The satisfaction of seeing all our efforts and hard work turn into a successful venture was what woke us up each morning. When I went to our office with Jonas, I remembered every moment we'd spent together. What a long journey it had been. In those early days, we'd started with 2 old laptops and a big dream. But everything had value, because both of us were determined to move forward on our own with our own strength without needing anyone else. "Ellie, we're here," Jonas said, inviting me into the office. The time has come. In that moment, I realized how far we'd come. This wasn't just about the business growing, it was an inner success too. Making peace with myself, accepting my past, and building a new life despite it. These weren't just words, they'd become my way of living. Working with Jonas, I knew we'd found success not just in the business world but in my soul as well. But the real victory was building our own identities without having to prove anything to anyone. And in that moment, I was finally leaving behind the dark shadow my past had cast over me. In those days working with Jonas, I slowly began to feel myself growing in my own business world. Every day brought more clients, more opportunities, and more challenges. But alongside all of it, the change within me was making me stronger. I wasn't just a businesswoman anymore. I had found my identity, made peace with my past, and finally understood myself. This journey wasn't just a professional success, it was an inner triumph as well. One morning, as I sat in the office, my phone rang. It was a message from Jonas. "Ellie, we've got a big opportunity. It looks like we're about to close a major deal for the company. But this might also bring you to a crossroads." Jonas always spoke with a certain excitement, but this time the seriousness in his message made me a little uneasy. "What's the deal?" I texted back. "A tech firm wants to test our systems. But this deal might involve an offer that takes you back to the town. It's an opportunity that could take us to the next level." Jonas's message pushed me into two conflicting thoughts. On one hand, there was the idea of returning to the past I'd spent years running from. Maple Bridge, my family, my old life. Going back to the town, to where everything began, scared me. On the other hand, there was this business opportunity. It wouldn't just grow our company, it would also give me a new identity. It was a chance to prove my strength and independence once again. A voice inside me said that going back to my past wouldn't mean anything. Through all, though my past still followed me, it wasn't the only thing defining me anymore. I was walking my own path now. Yet something kept pulling me back to the town. In a way, this opportunity wasn't just about the business world. It was also a chance to complete my relationship with my past. A week later, I made my decision. To take the company's growth further and seize the opportunities ahead, I'd return to Maple Bridge. But this time, I'd return as a different Ellie. This time, I wouldn't just belong to them, I'd be there as someone who had embraced her own identity. When I returned to Maple Bridge, the town felt as foreign to me as it had before. But now, the shadow of the past wasn't hanging over me. The shortcomings I'd felt about my family were just memories now. With the company's growth, we'd started negotiating one of the town's biggest tech deals. This would make us not just a local player, but a national one. Stepping into the town this time, I didn't feel the way I used to. I could sense my family's eyes on me, but there was a confidence within me. To those who didn't know me, I wasn't just that old, lost kid anymore. And for my family, their perspective of me had to change. This time, I needed to shift how they saw me. The first dinner I had with my mom wasn't cold or guarded like before. This time, our conversation held more meaning. 'Cause I no longer needed them. "Ellie, you've changed so much," my mom said, her eyes filled with surprise. Seeing you here, it's something else. I can feel that you found your own path now." In that moment, I realized how powerful it was to shed the responsibilities my past had placed on me. They no longer needed to approve of me. I was a woman who had chosen her own path and found her own identity. Brandon, as always, was the town's most successful man. But this time, he approached me differently. "Ellie, it's good to see you. Do you ever think about coming back and doing the old stuff?" he asked, placing a hand on my shoulder. In that moment, I saw something in Brandon's eyes. It wasn't just a reflection of past successes, it was a symbol of self-confidence. "No," I said. "That's not my path. But I'm proud of you. You really deserve your success." Those words helped me let go of every worry from my past. There were two different paths, and I could have chosen either one. Following one might have meant returning to my old life. But I chose my own path. And that path brought not just success, but freedom. With Jonas, we began growing the company even more. On one side, there was the business world. On the other, my personal journey. I was balancing both. Success wasn't the only thing at the center of my life anymore. My inner strength was too. I didn't need my family's approval because the greatest approval came from myself. One day, with the influence of the years spent in the town, the time came to make a choice. I could either fully leave behind the identities my past had imposed on me and continue living entirely as my own self, or I could accept the old boundaries my past had forced upon me and return to them. But I knew that neither my past nor my family's shadow defined me anymore. Who I was had to be just me. And so I kept going. Success wasn't just about proving something to others, it was about finding the deepest strength within myself. I had reached another turning point in my life. As my company grew rapidly, my relationships with the town and my family were also taking on new shapes. Once I'd felt that everything in this town wasn't meant for me, a place where everything labeled me, where every move I made was constantly watched. But now, with the change inside me, my return to the town had taken on a new meaning. I wouldn't let this place define me anymore. When I realized that, I understood I'd found the peace within me. I was truly free. Jonas and I were taking our business to the next level. We'd secured our first major client, and this deal would pave the way for our company to gain national recognition. But that was just the surface. The real growth came from the trust we had in each other and the unique bond we'd built together. One day, as Jonas and I discussed the day's plans in our new office, he said, "Ellie, there's a huge opportunity for our company. But we can't achieve it with just success. It'll take the right strategy. And your vision is part of that." In that moment, his trust in me made me feel truly valuable. I'd always thought I had to do everything on my own, but Jonas showed me I could be strong not just in the business world, but in my inner world too. With this change inside me, I started looking at the town differently. Times I still felt the coldness in my family's eyes, sensing they didn't fully understand me. But they could no longer decide my path or my worth. Every time I went to the town, I no longer represented just a ghost of the past. I stood there as a woman who had set herself free. One day, I realized I needed to have a conversation with my father. It was a moment I'd put off for years. Till I didn't know what to say to him. Forgetting his cold stares and dismissive attitude from the past wasn't easy. But now I knew deep down that I didn't need his approval. I went to my office and sent my dad a message. "Do you want to see me? There are a few things we need to talk about." A little while later, his reply came. "Keep it short and clear. Say what you need to say." That day, I decided to meet him. We met outside the town at an old cafe. There was curiosity in his eyes, but he was also trying to mask his old demeanor. In that moment, as I looked at him with the peace inside me, I thought not of the past, but of the present. "Dad, I need to say something," I said, taking a deep breath. "I'm tired of trying to be valuable to you. Now I'm living for myself. I want to see who I am and what I've achieved. I'm doing this for me, not for your approval." My father looked at me in silence. For a while, there was nothing but quiet. Then, somehow, the hardness in his eyes softened a little. "Ellie, getting to know you has always felt like a dream. But maybe this really is your path. I never put obstacles in the way of the road you chose. Just remember, life won't always be easy." In that moment, the change in my father's eyes gave me the answer I'd been waiting for all these years. What mattered to me wasn't being successful in their eyes, it was finding my own worth. The peace inside me allowed me to live this moment and finally make peace with my past. Looking back, everything in my life had changed. 4 years, I'd struggled with their expectations while trying to find my own identity. But now I was moving forward by forging my own path. The town, my family, the past, they were all behind me. Now I was stepping into a future, and this path was mine alone. As Jonas and I continued growing our business, we moved forward filled with inner peace and confidence. Every day we learned something new and grew a little more. But most importantly, neither the town nor my family defined me anymore. I knew myself and I knew what I wanted. One day, when I went to the office, Jonas came to me with a proposal. "Ellie, I want to take our current success to an international level. We can do this together. I have complete faith in you beyond anything else." In that moment, the determination in my eyes shifted entirely. I'd found success not just in the business world, but within myself. The shadow of my past was behind me, and now there was only one direction: forward. A week later, we made our company's name known on an international stage. I was no longer the Ellie who once felt lost in the past. I was now a woman leaving her mark on the world, having found her identity and knowing her worth. I'd always waited for the perfect conditions to achieve something. But I realized that true success can be attained even without perfect circumstances. All it takes is recognizing the strength and resolve within you. Despite the town, my family, and all my old dreams, I was free now. Success wasn't just a reward, it was the depth we gained on the journey. And with each passing day, that journey became more meaningful. When I noticed the change within me, I couldn't believe it at first. But with each passing day, I felt freer. As everything in the business world developed rapidly, something was also growing in my inner world. I had found not just success, but peace, balance, and independence too. This journey had taught me not only what mattered, but how I wanted to live. While Jonas and I expanded our business internationally, I felt more confidence and determination with every step. Each new client, each new deal seemed to carry me further forward. But the most important thing was that I was no longer alone on this path. I had made peace with myself, shed the burdens of my past, and most crucially, discovered my own strength. One morning, while working in the office, my phone rang. It was Jonas. "Ellie, we have a very important meeting today. Our goal is big. This deal will take us to another level. But this time, your decision will matter." Jonas's words sent a wave of excitement through me. We'd been preparing for this opportunity for a long time, but this felt different. This meeting wouldn't just shape our company's future, it would also mark a turning point in my personal journey. If we took this step, it would mean saying goodbye to my past entirely and building a new life. But it was more than just a business deal. It was the final step in completely rebuilding myself. The hours we spent in the office preparing for the meeting flew by without me noticing. As Jonas explained the details, I saw the determination in his eyes. This man wasn't just invested in the business. He felt the shared future we were building. In that moment, something became very clear to me. This endeavor was less about our success and more about the reward of finding our own identities. When we went to the meeting, the business partners across from us were incredibly professional. But what impressed them most wasn't just our business plan, it was the trust we had in each other and our shared vision. First, they focused on the commercial aspects, but at some point they noticed something beyond that. This work wasn't just about making money, it was about creating value. By the end of the meeting, we signed a major deal. But the real reward wasn't just the success of the business. In that moment, I had left behind all the anxieties of my past. My mom's and dad's search for approval, Brandon's constant pressure to be successful. And that moment was exactly what I needed. I still had doubts about whether to return to the town. But with each passing day, I felt that the old identity and sense of inadequacy I'd taken from Maple Bridge no longer belonged to me. My relationship with my family had been freed from the burdens that once defined me. Now I'd found balance in those relationships. I was brave and strong enough to show who I was. One evening, I thought about returning to the town. As I moved forward on my own path, I wondered if the past was still calling me. But this time it was different. Returning to the town wouldn't just be about rebuilding old ties, it would also be about displaying my identity there. I arranged a dinner with my mom. This time, I was determined to change that cold, cautious atmosphere. I would face her, show her how much she thought I lacked, and prove how valid that really was. This meeting would be a kind of reckoning for me. But it was also a chance to leave the past behind and start anew. That evening, as I sat with my mom, there was a questioning look in her eyes. But this time, I was there to show her how strong I'd become. "Ellie," she said, "I know how much we valued you, but sometimes we didn't know how to approach you." Hearing that, I paused for a moment. But something had shifted inside me. Her old worries about me no longer affected me. "Mom, I understand you, but I'm not on your or Dad's path anymore. I'm walking my own. I define success not the way you want, but the way I want." My mom stayed silent for a few seconds. Her eyes welled up, but then she gave a faint smile. "It took me a while to understand that. But I know you're strong, Ellie. You've done it." In that moment, I felt a sense of relief. There was a way to everything. I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. I was free now, and that was the greatest reward. When I returned, the town wasn't the same as it used to be. People were still the same, but I was different. Above all, I now knew myself. Success was more than just a business deal, it was an inner victory. And the most important thing was knowing I could prove it to myself, not just to others. For the day our company made its name known internationally, everything sped up even more. But something had changed. I had made peace with myself and shed the burdens of my past. Neither my past nor my family's expectations defined me anymore. Who I was belonged solely to me. And that freedom was the most valuable reward of my life. One day, as the sun rose, I looked out at my office. Standing in front of the wall with our company's logo, I felt the strength this journey had given me. I had achieved a true victory, both in the business world and within myself. The identity my past had labeled me with was gone. No one could limit me anymore. And I knew I had truly succeeded, both out there and within me. As time passed, I felt everything in my life becoming clearer. While our company achieved success, I was also undergoing a profound personal transformation. I wasn't becoming stronger and freer each day to prove anything to others, only for myself. I had found balance not just in the business world, but in my inner peace as well. The security company Jonas and I had built together grew rapidly. But this growth wasn't just in the business, it was a revolution in how we expressed ourselves. Our company's recognition on an international stage was made possible by the trust and determination we shared. Yet the change within me wasn't merely the success of a business. Finding my identity and being able to show it to the world, that was my true victory. One morning, while working in the office, my phone rang. It was Jonas. "Ellie, I've got amazing news. We're about to sign another big deal, but this could be an even greater opportunity for us. This isn't just about the company's future, it could change our destinies." Jonas's words reminded me that we'd reached another pivotal moment in my life. For years, I'd wanted to achieve something, to leave my mark. But this time it was different. It wasn't just about the business growing. This deal was a chance to introduce our path to the world even more. It would be the next step, not only in the business world but also in expressing my own identity. A surge of excitement rose within me. There was no longer any need to dwell on the responsibilities or expectations my past had imposed on me. My goals belonged solely to me. This deal wouldn't just bring success in the business world, it would also carry me one step further in my personal journey. I would prove to myself that, once I shed the shadows of my past, I could exist freely. When the day of the meeting arrived, I set out for the office. This time, the old anxieties I'd felt when returning to the town were merely a memory left behind. Going back to the town, in a way, required one final reckoning with my past. But that evening, after speaking with my mom, I realized something. No one could impose an identity on me anymore. That meeting made me question my family and my ties to the town, which had once defined me, but now everything was different. This time, I recognized how free I felt and how much strength finding my own identity had given me. Traces of the past were fading. And finally, everything had started moving forward on my own path. We finalized the company's international deal. As I celebrated this success with Jonas and the team I worked with, I also felt a deep sense of peace. 'Cause this wasn't just a triumph in the business world, it was a victory in my own life. Accepting my past, loving myself as I was, and growing through it all, that was true success. One day, while sitting in the company's office, I realized something. I was now stronger not just in the business world but in every aspect of life. Making peace with myself had brought me success not only in work but in every part of my existence. I no longer needed to compare myself to anyone or anything, 'cause my path fully reflected my own identity. One evening, as the sun set outside, I gazed at the cityscape from my office window. Peace within me reminded me of how much everything had changed. For years, I'd thought I lived in such a small, confined world. But now I could see that world from a broader perspective. My company, my life, my relationships, and most importantly, myself, everything was now in perfect harmony. After making peace with my past, I truly felt free. No one could confine me to that old identity from my past anymore. Everything was my choice, my decision. And because of that, I looked to the future with confidence. Through our meetings in the office with Jonas, our business continued to grow rapidly. But there was something that took on meaning beyond everything else: discovering myself, seeing my own potential, and acting on it. This journey wasn't just a rise in the business world, it was an inner revolution. One day, while working on yet another major deal for the company, I found myself in a moment of peace. Because this wasn't just a business agreement, it was the point I'd reached at the end of my long search for my identity and strength in my personal journey. And at that point, I realized that every sense of inadequacy my past had burdened me with was gone. I had made peace with myself, and now I was moving forward, embracing my own identity and potential without needing anyone or anything else. When I found the strength to overcome my past, I felt truly free. This journey offered me life's most valuable rewards with every step. As time moved swiftly forward, the transformation within me continued. While our company gained more recognition worldwide, I was proving to everyone that a woman could be this strong and find her own path. Success wasn't just about chasing a goal, it was about becoming a stronger, freer person with every step. The true victory wasn't in external achievements, but in finding the peace within. Jonas and I worked more closely with each passing day. The business wasn't just a job, it was a shared dream we'd built together. The trust one had in him propelled me further every day. In both the business world and my personal life, every moment we spent together reminded me of the precious bond we'd forged. But all of this was just the beginning. As I shed the burdens of my past, opportunities one hadn't seen before began to appear in front of me. One morning when I arrived at the office, I received a message. It informed me that we'd be holding an important meeting with an international group of investors. This was an opportunity that would shape our company's future. But for me, this meeting held a special significance. It wasn't just a major business opportunity. It was also a confirmation of an inner victory and my independence. When I fully found my identity, success stopped being just an external reward and became a state of inner fulfillment. When the day of the meeting arrived, I felt a bit of excitement. But the strength inside me told me I could handle it. This time, the fears of my past and my family's expectations didn't affect me. The sense of inadequacy I'd felt so many times was now just a memory left behind. There was a world in front of me, and I knew exactly who I was in it. As I entered the large meeting room with the investor group, my eyes weren't just searching for success, they were seeking confidence too. All those years I'd been suffocated by feelings of failure and inadequacy. This moment felt like a crowning achievement. 'Cause the people standing before me in this meeting would believe not just in our business, but in our vision. Presentation Jonas and I delivered together exceeded all expectations. Everything we'd been through up to that point had taught us not only how to succeed in business, but also the value of surviving and fighting in life. In that moment, only one word crossed my mind: we did it! The end of the meeting, the major investors all began clapping together. But for me, that applause wasn't just for a business success. I accepted it as an inner triumph. I could now express myself correctly, not just at that table, but in every aspect of my life. After the deal, I needed some time alone. This step we'd taken for the company's future had given me so much and once again showed me how far I'd come personally. I walked alone through the city. This time, I listened only to the sound of my footsteps. With every step, I savored my freedom, feeling completely liberated from the weight of my past. Once, growing up in Maple Bridge, I'd felt that sense of inadequacy, insufficiency, and the need for approval, but it was gone now. I no longer had to prove anything to anyone. I was moving forward on my own path for myself, and that was the greatest strength I possessed. Returning to the office with Jonas, my eyes recalled every moment we'd shared. Tough times, dark moments. But together, with the trust we had in each other, we'd overcome everything. This journey wasn't just a professional one, it was a personal transformation. The peace I'd found in my inner world merged with success, adding new meaning to my life every day. A week later, I had to return to the town. I wanted to fully clarify my relationship with my family and heal the wounds of my past once and for all. Maple Bridge was no longer a place that made me feel fear or inadequacy. Standing above everything, I needed to have one final reckoning. But this time, I was returning as a completely different Ellie. Town was no longer where my past defined me. I had cast off the identity my past had burdened me with. When I met my family for dinner, there was no fear in me. I had overcome everything. My father's comments, my mother's constant worries, they no longer affected me. This time, I would show them only my path and who I was. That evening, at the dinner table, my mom looked at me and took a deep breath. "Ellie, I'm really starting to understand you," she said. "In the past, I didn't know how to approach you, but getting to know you now makes me proud." My father, in a short but meaningful way, added, "You've done it. We always wanted you by our side, but as we got to know you, I saw how strong you are." In that moment, I felt a sense of relief and liberation within me. The shadow of my past was finally behind me. Now, I was continuing on my own path. I had made peace with my family, but neither the pressure of the past nor their expectations could define me. I was myself, and I embraced that identity. And so I grew more with each passing day. Our company proved itself by partnering with many major global firms. But inwardly, I gained so much more. I had found my freedom, my identity, and my strength. By leaving the past behind, I had taken full control of my life. I was no longer living just to achieve something, but for who I was. With every step, I was winning a victory, both out there and within me. The point I'd reached in my life taught me that anything was possible. When I broke free from the chains of my past and found my own identity, success became more than just a reward. It turned into a state of inner peace. My family, the old town, that lingering sense of inadequacy I'd once felt toward them, all of it stayed in the past. Now I knew myself and took pride in who I was. The international success of our company gave me strength with every step. But the truth was, even those external achievements were a reflection of the transformation within me. When I found myself, I truly won. And what I gained wasn't just my place in the business world, it was my soul, my identity, and my freedom. One morning, when I arrived at the office, I stood on the brink of a major decision. We were about to hold a meeting to develop new strategies for the company's future. But this time, at the point I'd reached, I would prioritize not just external success, but inner peace. I was taking this step knowing how valuable I was, both to myself and to my team, as we moved forward together. While preparing for the meeting, I lost myself in a moment of reflection. This entire journey was filled with victories, not just in the business world, but in my inner world too. Looking back, I realized that all these years had given me not only a career, but also freedom, balance, and peace. Suddenly, the first moments of the day I left the town flashed before my eyes. Back then, I'd felt lost, unsuccessful, and incomplete. But now, those shadows of the past no longer affected me in any way. I wasn't that old Ellie anymore. I was a woman who had found her identity, carved her own path, and succeeded on it. Jonas's trust in me and our shared vision united us not only in the business world, but in our personal journeys as well. We had become each other's steadfast companions on this road. This bond had made our success in business even more meaningful. But my relationship with Jonas symbolized my growth in every aspect of my life, not just the professional side. When the meeting day arrived and I sat at the table with our team, I felt the peace within me. I was no longer chasing just external success. I was taking this step knowing my own worth. The decisions and strategies we made for the company's future would propel us further, but for me, the most important thing was how this process reminded me of who I was. Through the final meeting with the investors, new deals were signed, and our company grew even more on a global scale. Yet this wasn't the end, it was the opening of doors to a new beginning. When I found my inner strength, I drew my success in business from it. I had shed everything my past had burdened me with, and now I moved forward simply knowing who I was. I decided to return to the town for a while. This time, it wasn't just to see my family, it was to show my identity there too. But the old fears, anxieties, or that lingering sense of inadequacy from the past wouldn't affect me. The time I'd spend with my family wouldn't be about explaining who I was to them, it would be about accepting them and continuing on my own path. As I returned to the town, the sadness, fear, and anxiety I'd felt years ago when I left were replaced by a sense of freedom. The evening I spent with my family wasn't about finding my old place, it allowed me to find the peace within me. My relationship with them was no longer one defined by the past, but one built on a new understanding. In the end, I realized that everything had come full circle and found completion. No matter how much pain the past had caused me, the person I was now embraced that past and drew strength from it to move forward. I had come to know myself, accepted who I was, and now defined success solely for myself. The point I'd reached in my life taught me that anything was possible. With every step, I won a victory, not just in business, but in life. 'Cause this journey wasn't tied to anyone else's approval or how they defined success. This was my own path. I had left the past behind, but I would never lose the strength and freedom it had given me. And at the end of it all, I was truly free, truly a strong woman. And so the final period was placed. The shadow of the past was gone. Now my path belonged only to me.